Hey, I really like your hair.
You like my wait, did you hear that, babe?
She doesn't like it?
We're moving, so she's disclaiming her hacker, but she said, I gotta say I like your hair.
Oh, I did it in 10 minutes last night, so thank you.
You
It
like
looks
that?
good.
Well,
It's like a wave.
congratulations.
Born ready.
All right. Welcome to episode 63 of the Now Making Moves in Real Estate podcast. This is the General, along with my co host, the fabulous C Twist. And today we're excited to introduce someone who's not just making moves, but making smart, strategic ones. Brandon Hargreaves is a dynamic real estate professional based in Orange
Mhm.
County, California, and one of the newest additions to our growing network. After years of experience in the industry, Brandon has built a reputation for his professionalism, strong work ethic, and the kind of client focused service that sets top agents apart. So he recently joined forces with the Gated Group led by Travis Mullen and Gina Kirschenheiner, aligning himself with one of the fastest growing and most brand forward teams in the game. So, in this episode, we're talking about what it takes to break through in competitive markets, how to stay grounded while building big, and why aligning with the right people is everything. So let's get to it. Welcome, Brandon.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, ladies. And Courtney, nice to officially meet you. I've seen a lot of posts and I've seen who you are, but now I know who you are. I feel like it's a difference. So it's great.
Now we can
But
move
thanks
forward.
for having me on.
Yeah, isn't that wild to have people in your organization and you haven't even met them yet? Like,
Yeah. There's a
congratulations.
lot of them actually. Well, because once you start supporting, I feel like your network and, in a level of like brotherhood, sisterhood, you start connecting to them and paying attention differently, I feel. And that's what's kind of nice about EXP and being in that space is there's Central California that I now feel that same kind of like motivation for their success differently. You know what I mean? So it's exciting.
Yeah. Very collaborative.
Yeah.
Which
Well, listen, Brandon, if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about your backstory, because we know that you started as an appraiser, excuse me, quite some time ago. So just give our listeners a little, uh,
Yeah,
st-
that's how I got into real estate. 20 around 22 years ago. I've been appraising real estate and valuing real estate in California and Orange or in Arizona for a little bit, and then as time went on and the industry changed, the crash, the market crash, all the things of what's happened in that industry, I kind of just stuck along with it, and I wasn't really building a brand for myself as an appraiser other than getting leads or getting deals from lenders during refi booms, during private estate property, things like that. So then as you enter into so many of these homes as an appraiser, because you go into thousands of homes, and you start building a rapport with someone on a different level, and a skill set, I think, with going into entering people's homes, having conversations with strangers about their space, and now translating that into actually real estate as far as buying and selling and helping people with their homes get it on the market for the true value that it is. It's been a huge benefit, and I didn't realize it until recently because now all those pieces kind of fit together. It took a long time, didn't take 5 years. I didn't realize, it's like, oh, this is where I belong, this is what I should be doing, and it's like you burn a boat, bridge, whatever it is you're burning. It's like I don't want to burn it, but I want to definitely step over it and move on from it. So the valuing side of it is just what I know, it's inherently in me, along with design, really, because you're going in so many homes, you just become connected to it, right? And so that bringing that forward into the new space of listing and being creative socially through, listing your property. I feel like when you're a listing agent, you're like gold because you have an opportunity to create something very unique for what you're trying to sell, right? And so you're not just selling the property, you're creating a story. And through that, I think the value side of going back into all these homes helps me have creative ideas for those stories, and it's interesting how each home has a different story. Like behind every door, there's a story, right? I
totally.
might I might use that one. Mhm. Marketing. See, Michelle knows where my head's going,
Gotta create it.
Yeah, that's what it is done for me, is the value, and if you need to know the value of the house. You need to know how to, and kind of we can debunk a few things if you guys would like on, agent appraiser connections and what's available to each other and what you're allowed to do, who you're sharing that real estate transaction with, right? As an appraiser, I used to just mindsetfully think, oh, I'm just going to go in, do my job, move on. Write the file, submit it out. But as you get more involved in real estate and you understand what the escrow is, what the title is, what the whole piece of the pie is in like listing and selling a property, it's huge, and it does change you as a value professional on how you view the whole picture. Does it change your value of a property? Maybe not, but it changes the way you come up with that value. And if you can do that with all the information that goes into the conversation with the agents, right? Is like, what do I give to my appraiser? What do I not? Right. Well, give them all the information. Let them be the judge of their profession, and whether you're right or wrong as an agent or what vice versa, it's now released to them. And now you have information that you can talk about with them if they don't choose to use that in the appraisal. So you have a dialogue with them. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you want to create, is a dialogue without really having to talk. Does that make sense? You just want to give them the information, and how you give that to them is just you give it to them like you would give anybody information. You're selling that a home, we're listing a property. We need to provide them with how we came up with that listing value. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is when we talk about comps, for instance, when you're an agent going to an appraiser saying, here's my packet of comps, that does sit weird typically with an appraiser sometimes, because you're basically saying, here's my job, here's your job, you're not doing it, in their mind, because they're very unique individuals as a whole collective industry, right? Let's be honest with it. They are, you know what I mean?
That's what I was thinking. It's so funny because you're so personable and clearly like a people person. And I feel like most appraisers get into it because they don't want to talk to people.
Yeah,
Want
true.
to
And
find
but yet
things.
they have to go and talk, but yet they have to go and talk to strangers every day, which is kind of weird, right? They have to go into spaces, and a lot of women do it as well. That's probably, I would say it's 50-50 or almost in the market of who does what in the industry. And appraisers, there's a lot of women, there's a lot of men. It's just, equally divided. And that's a whole other topic, right? For the safety of certain things, right? You are going to homes and these are these people's homes, and you don't know what you're walking into when you're going into any of them. So that's a whole other topic. We should do a safety call on entering properties, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Now that save that for another day.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to get on. Okay. So when you're saying you don't like it when realtors give the comps and how we came up with the properties. So would you
It's not
say
that I don't like how they give them. I like that they give me information. It's how we present it to them as agents about respecting their profession, right? In a way, right? It's like,
so like
here's the list of here's my sales that I came up with to come up with my list price, right? These are sales, and you can determine if they're comps, because comparable are true comps to a house, where sales are just the things that maybe are not necessarily the case for their professional view on it, right? Like, oh, you went 3 miles out because you want this 795 listing. Well, is that really a comp, or is that because you're saying it because they both had crown molding or something ridiculous? Like, let's be real. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, and that happens, right? So just disclose it, but how you do it is just sales that come up with my list price, and this is kind of where we're falling. And these are the features that we've done to the house to get us there, and you itemize it out. Like, that little bit of work is a huge benefit for everybody, because now if there is a rebuttal on this property and it doesn't make value or whatever, and now your client's upset, so they have to go through the rebuttal process, you can now have conversations about and see if they omitted things that maybe were true comparables or true information to that subject property, right? So you want to be able to have the conversation with them, but you need a starting point. Give them information that becomes your starting point. So
Okay. And would you recommend that the agent give it to them in person, like be there for the appraisal?
ideally go there, show them that you're invested.
Mhm.
Show them that you're invested in going, and yeah, the keys are in the lockbox. Yeah, you could do that. Oh, I'd love it. I I don't mind it. Let's be honest. If I have to go to the bathroom and you're not there, I can use the it's a listing property. Let's be honest. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the truth, right? So if you can be there,
Mhm.
because you're now showing that you're interested in, you're paying attention, I guess. Not that they don't think you are, but it just is what it is. And here and if they can't, yes, email them and just kind of confirmation, and just you did your due diligence. That's really what it comes down to, right? Now let them do their due diligence
Yeah.
with information they have. They're going to get it from MLS. They're going to get it from Zillow, wherever they're going to get it. It's them to decipher, really, per their profession, what that is going to encompass.
Well, and you bring up rebuttals. So I am in a rural market, which is hard to come up
Mhm.
with pricing sometimes because we have no getter homes. They're all different acreage.
Mhm.
We've had some over the years, about 20 years of doing it with rebuttals, and I've yet to see them ever go through. Is it more common in other areas where a rebuttal actually
I
works?
mean, also has how incompetent the appraiser is or was and wasn't. Do you know what I mean? So in rural areas, you're dealing with a handful of getting all the market. So
Yeah.
you get to know these appraisers well and you get to understand their, you know what I mean? And does it work? Rebuttals. Okay, my 22 years of appraising, I think I've gotten like 3 or 4. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't get many of them but I did change value on one of them because
Wow.
I didn't see a comp that was a comp. Like I just, and it happens. Does it mean that I failed my job? No. Does it mean like this is the whole process of just making sure that all the information is there for everybody equally, right? And your mind sometimes gets stuck on a thing, and that's because we're, as we're valuing properties because of what we see. Your senses get involved when you're going into a property. You get as agents, right? We do. You smell the way the house smells. You can textually feel the flooring and just like the things of the home, right? Well, go into one home feeling one way, and I'll go put my report together as an appraiser, and I'll look at it and it looks like a great home. But the smell of it didn't sit right. Like there's a whole vibe to that, right? So that's interesting. But the reality is you use some cleaning products or whatever it is, and you're back to what the property is really worth.
Mhm.
And that's why you do provide photos, and that's why is all that information. Don't try to hide things from the appraiser too. They're going to see like, oh, like if there's oh, let's not talk about this room because the walls, the ceilings. Just explain it and get it all out there. We have to get it all out there.
Mhm.
And I will touch on what I think the benefit, because I can go on this forever, but I mean, how interesting is it? Let's be honest. But a benefit of having an appraiser in your network of agencies, and like you can have the relationship with someone and it not be about giving them a value on a house. So now you're getting information and you're getting context to what you can now take to your properties, right? So that's why it's important to have I feel, a close relationship with one. Like they're all, yes, they're some aren't personal, but there's a lot that out there that do want to build relationships with agents, because it does lead to someone, as they're dealing with a trust and their family has 20 properties that need to get appraised. Well, they reach out, and that kind of brings me to the gated group and how I connected with them, right? Is through appraising. Travis reached out, and because he wanted to know the value of a house before he put it on the market, which is a smart move, right? We don't see enough of that, but as a selling service to our clients, that is, I think, a good option as far as an expense that maybe the community, however we divide it, occurs that cost, because you're getting upfront information before you need it at the end of it, when you already went through the months or 2 months of doing this project. You know, perfect example. My last client had a home on the market for 1.45, right? Well, after all is said and done, and inspections and everything we went for the month, it had a unpermitted bedroom and bathroom, which was a conversion, which would be okay. You can still, again, we can still get value to those. Lenders will lend on that. The issue was that there was a septic tank that was built underneath the unpermitted addition. So now it's not health, now it's health and safety. So now no longer can even a lender ignore that situation. So that 1.45 appraised at 1.24, because it wasn't a 1,500 square foot house, it was an 1,100 square foot house. It wasn't a 3 bedroom, it was a two. It wasn't a 2 bath, it was a 1 bath. So all those things that technically my brother wanted this property for so many other valuable reasons for it. But this thing to the wire, we ended up negotiating to 1.3, right? And then in lieu of all repairs, which means the septic tank, which means the permits for everything, we were going to take it. So with $150,000 she was coming off, we were still going to come up 60 above the appraised value, right? And then it came down to, in lieu of all repairs, but we wanted the termites for 4,000. And the agent I believe, didn't tell it to the client that that's what we were still requesting, because he said no. We said in lieu of all repairs. And my client brother, he walked out. He backed out at the last, because he's like, I've been a contractor. There's going to be too many red. This was more. It was an emotional decision, to be honest with you, if you think of it that way. After going through all of that, but at the end of the day, he's sleeping at night, and now the property is relisted at 1.45 after having all that information.
Wow. I didn't know that he walked away from that.
Oh, he walked away.
Wow. He really wanted
Yes.
that too. It was, like,
He
perfect.
wanted it. It was a perfect business home and a perfect thing, but there was something, that was just kept pulling him towards the end, and the straw for $4,000, really. And my relationship as his agent and his brother, and like, look, I could eat this, the agent can eat this, we can come up in the middle and still get you where you need to be. But to be honest with you, when it comes to now, we're going to relationship building, right? I feel that agent, the relationship wasn't solid, obviously, to where even the conversations about saving a deal on their end, because now they know all the facts. They know the unpermits, they know everything. We did all the reports out my client, you know. So that was kind of one of the things you talk about in real estate that it's like that's a heavy one, right? For everybody, because Travis, we all invested in this. We all put a lot of work in. Your TC, everybody, right? And then it's just postponed is how I'm looking at it until another property that he finds comes along. Because he was doing a 1031 exchange. He needed to get rid of it. He needs it. He needs to find another one.
Yeah.
But your mind shifts as a client, right? Weekly. And that's what I learned in real estate, even with my brother. It's like one week they are gung ho about something, and then one switch can change. And that's why it's so important to kind of keep them as much communication as the whole time, right?
Can we actually expand on that a little bit? Because we're seeing a lot, and all the agents in our organization that we're talking to of this change in the market where a lot of people are falling through or things are extending. And essentially, we're shifting from a seller's market to a buyer's market as we speak. So,
Yes, to today.
been in this for 20 years. When an agent is pricing a listing, like I'm going
Yeah.
to go out on a listing appointment, say, and we know the market is shifting. I mean, what would you say to expect? Because we're still looking at comps from a few months ago, but
You
then
explain exactly what you just said, and you just be as trans. That's really what it is. It's like our marketing now, our campaign for this to help them is being as realistic with them as possible, as much as we all know. We're all equal in that space of like, okay, well, now we're listing at this. Like, for instance, the property that my brother sold in Eastvale, and Michelle knows a little bit about this one, it started at 789. And then the neighbor model match track community went for 760 and then took a 748. So now in that, even though it wasn't as good a condition, didn't have all the amenities as my brother's property had, everyone that single property in this community of model match tracky homes devalued literally the home market in that community because now everybody was paying off that. So we had to play off of it. And we were the nicest one. We had to go down to 775, which brought everyone at 760s who were like coming in still. Again, these are original homeowners from 2012 who have equity in their home, right? So in their mind, 40 sometimes grand doesn't really play a game into there. But what that game did for the market in that particular area was like dominoes. And what we got out now, I think at 775, where now it would probably be it would be 760 in 2 weeks later. So yeah, how do you price that accordingly? You have to watch your competition in a rural area. It's going to be completely different because people are buying that property for a whole different thing than they are going to these. A lot of the buyers where I was selling was investors or first time buyers coming out of Orange County who can't afford to get their first property and want to have a nice home that in Aliso Viejo would be appraised at 1.2 to 1.3, where it's selling for 800,000. Same track, garage in side patio living, zero lot line.
Mhm,
So it's
mhm,
hard. I just feel like you have to show them the most current sales and you walk them through it the best you can, right? And it's like, hey, the way we walk through it is if we really want to understand where to be, we have to be a realist. But then sometimes they do understand it because they'll come in at a price that you're like, we'll go for it. And it's not like you're going crazy. You're just going to attempt that 10, 20 grand jump and it still is getting it. So it's still weird enough to be, why are they getting this home at this, price versus this one that's the same in all relations.
mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
So I
Yeah.
hope that didn't confuse you more, but because it really didn't answer your question.
Well, I think it's just back to again having good, strong communication with your clients and saying, hey, why don't we get ahead of this? Because here's what the market is telling us. It's changed.
And let's see what happens if maybe you will get that push because now we're here at a realistic market price currently. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? And we can have that conversation. But in the package is like you like for again back to Travis real quick is he needed the appraisal done. He reached out to his brother who's a lender and said, "Hey, do you know of any appraisers?" And his brother met me at a engaged at a he worked for Keller. He was in a Keller Williams office, and so he was a lender in that space, at least whatever their business was. So we went in there to speak as an appraiser to agents. So I went in there to just talk about what we're kind of talking about now, right? And I've done that quite often in different, agencies, which I started feeling the connection as a more understanding of what a realtor is, right? Do you know what I mean? And in your mind as an appraiser, you think of them just like the realtors think of appraisers. Does that make sense? It's like they know, but you know what I mean? That's kind of the tagline behind each side of who you're viewing, the appraiser versus the agent, right? And everybody is equally knowledgeable if they choose to be, right? And that's the thing. You give them the information, you get it to them to where they now have to tell the story of what the house is worth. And that's what it is. You're telling a story to the lender. I'm telling you this house is 2,000 square feet. It's beautiful inside because look at these photos. The condition of the house is this because of what I'm showing you. And I'm going to find the best ones versus that are going to be maybe not the typical ones you would see maybe your next door neighbor because it's a next door neighbor, but it's not at all conform the way. So you just have to explain it. And you could be pretty confident in your explanation because I've seen some very terrible appraisals still go through. Because I used to
Mhm.
QC a lot of work for appraisal companies, and and it's not even that they go through. It's you'll get an appraisal to review as like, oh, this is, and you're looking at it and you're like, this is just like, how does this get by when mine gets by? Like I'm like I'm telling the story. You're not even telling a story, you know. And that's the part you just tell the story, and that's what you're doing to the agent, and that's what you're doing to the homeowner. Everything when we're trying to get these listings right.
Mhm.
It's like, I want to tell you the story, the truth. I'm an appraiser, but you just think that you just saw a guy get 200,000 over on these properties, and that's how they're marketing themselves as an agent is because they go $200,000 below, and then they know where they're going to get to. And I literally did a whole market analysis of this, market area of who was killing it. But the truth is, that's how they market themselves, and it works. But you're not really getting more; you're just listing lower.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with that if you can get us
No,
to do it. Yeah, it's a tactic.
but then it's a prideful thing for them a little bit, right? It's like my house isn't worth that. So how do I go and list it like that? And that's, you know what I mean? So it's a dance, right? We're dancing a little bit.
Mhm. So speaking of stories, because we're getting ready to wrap
Three
this.
minutes in.
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about the appraisal process, and that's valuable information for sure for our listeners. But I want to talk about your story that you touched on with working with Travis. So he hires you to go out and do an appraisal, and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden, fast forward how many weeks later, you're now part of
with
their
the
real
gated group.
estate.
I was, I didn't know who Travis was or anything. He's like, hey, we just on the phone instantly clicked a little bit. And I'm obviously like to talk. And he was, like, I was like, hey, look, I have this listing in Brea. Here's my situation that I'm going on because we were in escrow on that one. And the day of signing, the lender changed the seller or the buyer changed lenders on the day of signing, which created a whole snowball for an up leg property. And it just was this thing. So I was, we just started talking about that. And he's like, hey, well, if you ever, I had moved closer. My brokerage was in like another city. I had moved at that time to a different city closer to Travis, Ladera Ranch. He's in like Rancho Michigan. They're out in that area. So we're all in South Orange County, ideally, right? And I was like, I need to be where I'm at. I need to build and now, ironically, this is just a kind of ironic, but weirdly thing. So anyway, I didn't know Gina. I know who Gina was, but I didn't know any relationship on the show or any of that stuff. Right. And then, so he's like, oh, I'm like, whatever. So then my family's the one like, oh, you know who they are. My family's good friend knows Travis's mom and they play bunco together in Yorba Linda, like the same city I grew up in, because Travis grew up in the same city I grew up in. He went to like a different school and he's way younger, but so we just kind of hit it off. And then
Yeah.
from that point on, he's like, Gina's like, hey, after I decided I'm going to relocate, and I had two deals that I was bringing to the table. To be honest with you, I had this listing and this property we purchased. So I'm like, I need to house it somewhere, and I want to get guidance, and I want to be a part of a team. And
And I
so
want
fast
a
forward,
cap. I want a cap on my
yeah,
deal like
yeah,
this.
you were telling me about the cap, yeah. And then so
Done.
we got to this space to where now I'm here, and fast forward, it was fun because Gina's fun social media content wise, and she has fun with it, and I have fun with it. So that was a fun dynamic right there, and not knowing her, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, this is even gonna work because now I can have Travis answer questions that I need guidance in, and I can now have fun with Gina's idea of like what she likes to be out in her world. You know what I mean? And that's a cool part of it, and that's what I've kind of been building as well is presence of myself obviously in my social media and who I am as a realtor, as a value professional, as a father, as a fitness, like all the things, right? That's what we're doing. And I've kind of honed it in and understand it, and I keep understanding it more, and I feel like there's so much value to do that really with who you are. And the 20 years of valuing does give me that backing differently than I come in with a different set of skill set, and I'm like, I understand there's a value to that. You know what I mean? So providing that to Travis led me to his team. I'm now within their group. We've closed two deals together since then. And we're just halfway through the year. So it's
Like,
kind of exciting.
well, I
There.
have to. I have been loving your guys' social content. It is so funny and so cute.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when I reach out to Michelle, I'm like, "I have way more." Like, my brain, that's where I have fun with real estate for me, because like I said earlier, when you have a listing, you are the you it's like that's a free set. You have a set to make whatever you want. Like, you can make your story about it, and you can do it, I think, authentically with still showing the house, but not really our stories and social media of us to walking through properties really doesn't sell the house, let's be honest. It's just a part of us being in real estate, selling ourselves as who we are in real estate. Right? So let's keep doing that more creatively and more, innovatively and more fun and less, you know what I mean? And that's what I like about the gated group side of that. Oh, trust me, there's a lot more to come with that.
Well, so before we sign off, for the people that are listening, you went
Mhm.
from a career as an appraiser to completely flipping the script and diving in to being in real estate. You're
Mhm.
going for it full time, gated group, all the
Full
things.
time, yeah.
Yeah, like that's risky. Like for our listeners, like, oh my gosh, how, what would you say to those people that are listening? Like,
Oh, I mean, I think you stay true to what you are, and I think real estate is what I am. Like, and that sounds like whatever, but it's like, yes, I'm jumping, but valuing properties didn't really, it wasn't serving me the same way for what I need in this next phase of my life, right? 47 years old, like I want to take what I learned and now be confident, because as you get older, you get more confident in who you are and you understand yourself better, right? So I understand the gifts and the blessings that I've been given as who I am as my profession. I now know how to like utilize those and capitalize on them. So that's what I would say. Like, trust yourself, but it's not easy. Right? It's like, and you're like, you're and trust God, to me, to be honest with you. Like, for me, it's like I gotta believe that your path is what I'm supposed to be doing. And the less I think about me in my own space of blocking myself, it kind of gets easier.
get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way. Yeah, but also stay next to you. You know what I mean? Like, partner up with yourself. You know? Like, it's true though, right? Like, you like who you are, so you want you next to you. You just wanna also put you on the side and keep up now, you know?
Love that. That's
Yeah.
great.
So yeah, if you guys are ever down this way, you know, let's definitely link up.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. Brandon, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah,
Where
Corey, it's fun.
can people find you on Instagram so they can see these cool reels that you guys are doing?
Oh, just brand_H. So like brand_H. That's yeah, that's pretty much it. And then TikTok's TikTok. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, for me, and then, but there is a lot more to come, and we're gonna talk about that. Real estate unanonymous. Just think about that for a second.
Mm. Like,
Unanonymous. Everyone's like, unanonymous. What does that mean? You know what
Okay.
I mean? Like, let's keep these conversations going. So I'm excited about what's to come. And I like your offices.
oh, that's another conversation.
Mhm.
You won't
That's
see
why
that yet. You and I.
that's why I said that. That's why I said that.
Thanks,
Well,
Mary.
good luck with your moving, right? So good luck with your move. And you guys, I know you're not as close to each other, but it sounds like you're always there. So it's good.
You
Yes.
there.
And
Thank
we're
you.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Courtney, that was fun. Nice to meet you.
You too,
Thank you,
Brandon.
Brandon.
Have a
We'll
good
talk
one.
soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.